Morning guys, Mon here. Today we are taking a look at gold, shop and the black market. For this I have loaded up a game at floor 29. We are at the end of floor 29, so we have some gold to play with, we have some stuff I can show you. But first of all, let's take a look at the basics. All enemies are dropping gold. Bestiary of how much gold an enemy drops. And this increases if the enemy is elite or with higher floor or everything. So you just have an idea of what enemies drop how much gold, which is not too important because what you're gonna do, not kill the enemy. Aside from the goblins, not really an option. So, well, enemies drop gold. That's the basics. Also, enemies do drop loot, which can be sold for gold, which can be increased with the mercenary set. This makes the mercenary set a very, very strong early game set, and with the total attacks, even a very strong late game set, but can include it in later options if you want to have a constant gold flow outside of enemies dropping gold. This also does not affect, or is not affected by gold gain, so when you're dropping an item and selling it, you can even make a lot of gold while not having the craziest percentage gold gain, which is something to keep in mind. Though, then another way to get items aside from dropping them is from the chest that comes for the elite fight of shop of the floor you're in, but you probably know that already. So let's take a look at something a little more interesting. Let's take a look at the shop and how the shop interacts with the game, or we interact with the shop. Because let's first talk about rerolling a bit, because rerolling is a very important part of the game. Rerolling costs scales with floor level and with amount of rerolls I have done. So if I reroll now, the cost would increase, but as soon as I go into the next room, the cost will reset, but increase again if we are reaching a higher floor. So it scales with floor level and with the amounts times I have rerolled. The exact value here changes from time to time due to the developers still, well, patching and stuff, but that's the general idea. Then, from buying out items, one of the very, very interesting things is that when we buy out an item, the next item we are seeing as a higher tier is always increased by 1. So we can go through an entire shop from common to divine just in one go if we have enough. This did cost 20k gold now, just to see one divine item, which is fairly cheap when we think about that a reroll costs 1.6k. But as you can see, I do have cosmic magma sabatons here, and these are very expensive. So if I would buy out these pieces, then I'd lose a whole lot of gold, because even if I buy it for 400k and then I can sell it again, but I can sell it again for only 75% of the price, which means I am losing 100k gold just to see one divine item. And that only if I'm, well, at cosmic already. So when you go through these items, you have to be a little careful of what you are buying out to not lose tons of gold. But this is something that will get way more interesting in a later moment, but let's stay with the shop here for a moment. The next part that is very interesting is rerolling now. Reduces the chance of the items we are seeing to be rolled. This is a process the shop is learning with. So you can teach the shop what items do you want to see and what do you not want to see. So if I'm rerolling now these 3 pieces, the chance for keepsake, magma sabatons, and silver sword will be reduced in future resets of future refresh. Now I'm seeing these items and I can say like, okay, do I really want to see these? And the answer probably is yes, because all of these are fairly cheap. So I can just reroll through and see again, okay, we have different items now. I like to have them at the same tier so you can quickly see of what items are worth a lot and what items are not. So you can see a mythic Korg. So this dagger is again fairly expensive, and you have in your library an overview. Generally, what is deeper down here is more expensive. So you want to reroll the expensive items away and buy out the cheap items. Have very cheap rerolls here. So I can just continue with these 3 slots and say, okay, I want to keep on rerolling these three slots until I see something where I say, okay, this is very expensive again. Here I'm seeing cheap items, very cool to reroll. And now I can think about, okay, do I want to keep these? Do I want to buy them out to not reduce the odds of rolling them? But this is a very difficult question at times because there's a lot of stuff that can come together there. But let's take another look at something else because well, actually another thing I want to say is that the base variety of the shop, you can see now I'm already at 234k because I refreshed a bit. So the price of refreshing increases very, very quickly, so we cannot really refresh anymore reasonably, because even buying out very expensive items for 80k right now is way cheaper than refreshing the shop here. But base rarity of items increases when we are going at a higher floor, so you will see generally higher tier items, and then just can, for example, when you see, okay, this item is at Eternal State already in the shop, I say, okay, I buy out up from Mythic or something. Whenever I see a Mythic or higher item, I will go through until I see an item that is too expensive to reroll. You've just seen I barely spent 1k rerolling the slot up to Divine. So the next part I want to talk about is the black market, because I think the shop is fairly covered here. If you have, of course, any questions about the shop, feel free to drop them in the comments. Maybe I missed something I'm not aware of, and I will try to answer this. So yeah. Okay, actually one thing is very important. Buying out items, even though it can feel like that, does not increase the odds of them spawning. So when I buy out 3 items, these still have the exact same odds of appearing in the shop as before. The only thing that affects the items that are in the shop is re-rolling them away, which diminishes the chance of them spawning, or using the black market. The black market is very, very interesting, because with the newest patch, at the current moment, in the future probably not anymore, the black market has a new option, which is banish. But let's talk about dismantle first. So dismantling an item makes it so that you gain all its stats aside from the gold gain as permanent stats. So you generally want to banish items that you are looking for. You want to dismantle items you are looking for. So for example, I currently am playing a Malice build with 100k Malice here at stage 29. So I would want to take, I want to dismantle Malice items, and always, Malice or Faith items, because these are the best scaling slots for my build. But then I have the other option of banishing. And banishing is very, very interesting because it gives half the gold gain value as permanent stat. And when I'm taking a look at my gold gain, we are at 2.8k. So I would, if I dismantle this, gain like 30, 25% more gold up from this point just because I dismantled this item. Also, the Divine Chestplate is an item that is very far down the list, so it is generally a very expensive item to reroll. Banishing removes this item out of the pool entirely. So when I banish this, I can no longer roll it in the shop, which makes going through from common items to divine items a lot cheaper on average, because I'm not seeing the Divine Chestplate anymore. This means that you want to banish the very expensive items always. Though banishing only works on divine items, so you need some gold to buy out expensive items already. But let's talk a bit about tactics in general to refresh the knowledge we have just thought up. So the general idea is to reroll bad items away. You want to reroll, but not only just bad items in terms of bad stats, but bad items in terms of buying them out. You want to reroll expensive items away that you cannot refresh well, or reroll items away that are just in the mid tier, that are not worth banishing and are not worth buying out because they just hit the sweet spot of being too expensive and too bad to be banished. Then you want to keep a balance of refreshing and buying out, just so your refreshing doesn't go into thousands of gold that you can barely like handle at all and waste too much gold on refreshing there. Then you want to banish expensive items to make looking through the shop easier in general and less expensive. Also, it does give way more gold in the long run, which I just showed with the 700% we are gaining when banishing the Divine Chestplate. Then banish only if your character is strong enough. This is very important. So right now my character easily beats the stages because I have a 100k malice stat right now. So I can banish away a strong piece here without my character being too diminished or too hard hit by not gaining permanent stats. Then never banish cheap items. If you're banishing, you want to banish an expensive item because you want to gain the bonus gold and you really do not want to suffer through like having bad stats and bad gold gain and like rolling more expensive items. Like banishing a cheap item is the worst thing you can do, pretty much. You will always have something better to dismantle than banish when you are banishing bad items. Then let's talk about dismantling a bit. You always want to dismantle items that are generally strong for your build or give good utility. This can come in different ways because you need different stats on pretty much any character. Even on builds that are a little cheesy, like this one, we are playing Criminal Royal Silver, which is a piece that makes you 10 turn immune, though it is getting nerfed soon to 5 turns immune, which makes this build way less strong and you will need way better stats for it to work. But generally, you want a lot of stats, like Faith is pretty much good on every single build because it multiplies the damage against elites, which is the most important enemies pretty much always, so you always want to have Faith, for example. Then different builds want, for example, what's called Lifesteal can be very important, Regeneration and Life can be very important against poison enemies early. And another thing that I think is very important, to have one of every damage type, pretty much. Or you want as many different damage types as possible, just throughout the run. Like whenever you see, okay, my dismantle items are not that great, and my character generally is in a fairly good spot right now, I just pick up this electricity item and dismantle it, because different damage types apply a different what's called like they apply a different tick of damage, which means that enemies that have armor shields will lose one armor shield per damage taken, per type of damage taken. So very important to have different damage types just to get through these enemies way more quick. Then something else very important, if you have multiple high tier pieces, this right now does not apply here in this example, but if I had 2 legendary banish necklaces, then the odds are that it is better not to combine them into, well, the next higher piece. It's not eternal, it's something after, it's mythic, I do believe. Yeah. So if I had 2 legendary shards of power, it could be better not to combine them into a mythic shard of power, because 60% power and 20% penetration, when I don't have other great pieces to dismantle, you would want to like dismantle the legendary shard twice instead of the mythic shard once. So always keep in mind that you need enough dismantle pieces or banish pieces around to have like a good flow. And when you upgrade your pieces too quickly, too far, it can happen that you don't have a great dismantle item and lose power, because you would gain more if you had like dismantled the previous tier twice instead of the next tier once. Very important. And then I think, last thing I want to talk about is dismantling items you are wearing. For example, I am wearing right now an Eternal Mask of the Cursed and have a Legendary Mask of the Cursed around. Now, these items do give quite a lot of gold, so I would not want to lose the gold gain here. But for example, if I'm running the Throngler in a higher tier, like from tier 30, we can banish this here now, gain 700% gold. And now I'm in stage 30, so I could rule for the Throngler. Getting very expensive here very quickly. They upped the cost recently, and it's crazy how expensive. Well, we can look through some items here, and I will not have the gold gain for the Throngler, but if I'd find a Throngler here and had way higher gold gain, then, for example, I would be at 15k gold or something like that. And if I had the option to dismantle the Legendary Mask of the Cursed, it would probably be better to just wear it with a lower gold gain and dismantle the Eternal Mask, because it gives a higher percentage, and in the long run this is worth more, because the items you are wearing will reach Divine at some point anyways. So it can be beneficial to like dismantle your higher tier item you're wearing instead of the item you are having in your inventory lying around. Then, as you can see, 9 armor shields when we attack. Once now, it is losing 5 armor shields, despite us only having 2 attacks because of different damage types. But yeah, this pretty much is everything I wanted to talk about. So if you have any questions, drop them down in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching, and see you on the next time.